Well, howdy, people of the internet. Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today, another in our VMware series of videos. I know you've been waiting for this one for a while. You know, last time in the last video, we got VMware ESXI set up on our new Dell R620. Today, we're going to install Vcenter. So let's get it started right now. So Vcenter, yeah, those of you who use VMware know what Vcenter is. It's basically like a management interface and gives you a bunch of new whiz-bang features for your VMware servers, namely live migration, setting up a high availability, clustering, shared storage, that kind of thing. That's what it gives you the ability to do. Now, if you ever watched my VMware 6 series of videos, you know that I had trouble with Vcenter installs in the past, and that came to be a problem with the fact that the version of Vcenter I was trying to install was older than the current version. Well, if that makes any sense. And the security certificate had expired. That's why I could not install it. And with the help of other generous people and subscribers out on the internet, I was able to get that resolved and get it installed. This task is a lot easier. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install Vcenter server, and then I'm going to show you how to update Vcenter server, and then how to do updates to ESXI. And this is the way I do them. I found it just easier for me. You could do these updates through Vcenter, but yeah, let's get the video started right now. So here is the setup on the Dell R620. It's running ESXi 7. Now you're going to notice, if you look on the version, it's running 7.0, which is not the current version of ESXi. But I'm not going to update that yet. What I'm going to do first today is we're going to install Vcenter on this server. And Vcenter is the management application for VMware ESXi, if that makes any sense. Now, in the previous video, I showed you how to install ESXi. We also set up our shared storage on Erebor, which is our NFS shared storage. And we have a data store over there. And if we go out here, we can browse it and see all our ISOs and all that good stuff. So what we're going to do, like I said, today is we're going to install VMware Vcenter 7. And then after we get that installed, then we'll do the update to ESXi, because that's the recommended way to do it. Alright, so I've opened File Explorer and I've gone to my applications folder on my NAS and under VMware and version 7 for 2020. And under here I have a couple of files. I have the VMware VMvisor installer, that's ESXi. That's version 7.0 U1. That is actually I believe the current version. But remember, we use a customized image from Dell for VMware 7, so we're not going to use this. What we are going to use is this one, the VMware vCenter Server Appliance. I believe that's what that stands for, and that's version 7.0.1. So what you need to do is you need to right-click and you need to choose Mount on this, and that'll mount the CD as if it were a physical CD on your machine. And then you want to go to you have two options. You can go to the command line installer, or you can go to the the graphic, the GUI installer, and that's what we're going to use. And then we're going to go to Win32. And then what we're going to do is choose, where are you? Installer.exe, right there. So we'll just double click on it. Now you need to know the IP address, you need to have DNS set up, all that kind of stuff, and I'll show you as we go along. Bring this over to the proper window here. So what we're going to do is install a new vCenter server. And we're going to, let's see, the external platform services control. Okay, so you read your deprecations, read your information here. I'm just going to select next. We're going to deploy a vCenter server. and I accept the terms of the license agreement. And what we're going to do now is enter the IP address of the ESXI host. And I believe that is 5.8. I need to go check something over here on the other screen. Bear with me. Let's see. Is that 5.8? Where are you, you little varmint? Yes, you're 5.8, I think. Where are you? Yeah, 5.8 right here. VMK0. So it's 5.8 we're going to install it onto. So we're going to type that number in. Now, I could have a DNS name in there, and normally you would. You would put the Vcenter DNS name in there. However, I prefer to use IP addresses just in case there's something going on funky with DNS on your network, especially in a lab setup. So normally in a production setup, you would probably enter the fully qualified domain name, and that's assuming you had your DNS set up correctly. We're just going to use an IP address. So enter your login name and your super secret password, and please make it a complex password. Now this is the root password you've already set up on the ESXi server. So we're going to click next. It's going to give us a certificate warning, and we're going to tell it yes to accept that. Now keep in mind, if you've downloaded an older version of Vcenter, you may or may not run into this problem where you get through the phase 1 of the install, you go to phase 2, and suddenly it hangs at 80%. That's usually because your certificate has expired on the version you downloaded. So make sure you have the latest, greatest Vcenter. So the VM name. So specify the VM settings for the Vcenter server to be deployed. Now, right here, it's telling us on the root password, you have to have a complex password. I'm going to see if it allows my super secret password. Yeah, it doesn't. So I'm going to append that with another character. I'm not going to tell you what that is. And, try to keep your lab passwords separate from your, your regular production network passwords. Just, memorize a complex password in your head. Okay, we're going to click on next. Now, the VM deployment size is what it's going to ask to select next. So what it's going to do is it's going to give it 2 virtual CPUs, 12 gig of RAM, 463 gig of storage. You can have up to 10 hosts and 100 VMs, and that should suit our needs just fine. So we're going to click on next. Now, it's already seen the data store, the NFS data store in Erebor, and that's where we're going to put it. It's also selected thin mode for us, so it won't take up that much room. And the hard drive will grow, or the virtual hard drive will grow as it needs more size. So we're going to click next. Now, this is where we're going to configure the network settings for this Vcenter server. So, again, we could use a fully qualified domain name, but we're not going to. Because if you don't have your DNS set up properly, it could cause problems. So now what it's asking here is for the IP address you're going to assign for the Vcenter server. And I'm going to give that an IP of 15 on my network. And give it a subnet mask of 285.285.285.0. And our gateway is that, and then I have an internal DNS server on 5.1. Now, I could complicate things. I could create a separate VLAN to install Vcenter on. It's a lab environment. I don't see any need to do that. That would be an advanced topic. I could and probably should set up an entirely different VLAN for my labs, but right now we're just going to run it on the 5 subnet as part of that. Now, our common ports are 80 and 443, so don't forget this IP that you're going to put this machine on. So click on next, verify that all of your settings are correct, and then click on finish. Now, what's going to happen is it's going to go out and do a bunch of stuff on your ESXi server. So let me bring that up. And then you'll see it's actually going to start deploying a virtual machine here. Let's see. Now, this can take some time, and this is stage 1. So the first thing it's going to do is it's going to go out and create a virtual server, a virtual machine server on that ESXI host, and then it's going to create its storage, and then it's going to create its networking, la da 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 da, on and on and on. And then stage 2 will be where we actually come back and we configure that server and get it up and running. So I'm going to let this run in the background, and I'm not going to talk, and you can watch it perform, and I'll switch between screens and just let you be part of this. So give you an idea of how long it takes. All right, so now we've gotten to an exciting area where now the RPM installation is going to start. It's turning on the VMware vCenter server, so it's actually booting it up. And you can see it's a pretty hefty little VM that it creates here. It's giving it, I think, what, 16 gig of RAM? No, 16, let me see, before I misquote. It's giving it 16 hard drives and 12 gig of RAM. Now, this is just a virtual machine that manages and monitors and gives you the capability to do updating and migration of virtual machines and putting them into arrays and putting them to high availability clusters. That's what this software is doing. And it is a pig on resources. It's running Photon, which is, I guess, a flavor of Linux that VMware is using as the underlying operating system for this. So, but I will prepare you. If you're going to have a VMware lab, you better have lots of RAM, lots of storage space, and lots of CPU power, because you're going to need it. Unlike Hyper-V, where a lot of this stuff is included into the Hyper-V, like live migrations and that kind of thing, everything's a separate little program in VMware. And it can be a bit of a beast to run it if you don't have enough power to hand over. So I'm going to be using a third of the RAM on this machine. It only has 32 gig just for the vCenter server on its own. So once it powers up the machine, then it'll go ahead and install the RPMs, the Red Hat, that stands for Red Hat Package Manager. So it'll install the RPMs, and then we'll get on to phase 2. So, but I just wanted you to see the machine booting up. All right, so stage 1 is completed successfully, and we'll see that if we click behind there, we have our VMware vCenter server running. And if we go to monitor, we can see the CPU usage, we can see memory usage, etc., etc., etc. I won't bore you with that. I'll come back here to the monitor screen. So now we're going to go on to phase 2. Now, to proceed with stage 2, vCenter server setup, click continue. If you exit, you can continue by going to this IP address and this port number. So it's very important you write that down or take a screenshot of it just in case something happens, because at this point I could close it and come back and do this second part later. I'm going to do it now, so we're going to click on continue. It's going to load stage 2. Now this is the critical part, and it is going to warn us that if at any point it stops, we'll have to start all over again and blah, 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 blah. So now we'll do stage 2, so we're going to click on next. Now, I discussed in the first video with setting up ESXi to make sure that you had set up a time server and you sync to it. So we're going to have this synchronize with the ESXi host, and I'm also going to enable SSH access into this vCenter server just in case I need it. I'm going to click on next. Now in a production environment, you may not want to do that. So now they're giving us an idea of here. We could just use vsphere.local as a single sign-on domain name. I'm going to go ahead and do that. You can call yours whatever you want. Like I have midearth.local for my domain for my Active Directory. This is similar to that. This is a single sign-on domain for vSphere. Now we're going to go ahead and use administrator as the login name, and then we need to re-enter our super secret password with the extra character. And hopefully they will match here. Click on next. Now I'm going to go ahead and join the VMware Customer Experience Improvement Program. If you don't do that, some functions of VMware vSphere will not work, and they'll make you activate it later. So just go ahead and activate it now. Click on next. All right, so now this, read your summary here. It tells you what IP address it's going to use, subnet, gateway, DNS, synchronize the time with our ESXI host, or SSH is enabled, vSphere.local, username is administrator, and we've opted in. And so now we're going to click on finish. Now, it's giving us that warning I told you about. You will not be able to pause or stop the install from completing. Once it's started, click OK to continue or cancel. We're going to click on OK. Now this will take quite a bit of time, depending on the speed of your machine and a lot of other variables. So don't lose hope. Don't get up, go have some coffee, go outside and sit in the sunshine, get some vitamin D to fight, the virus that cannot be spoken of, and be patient. And that's what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go watch some YouTube videos while this is installing, and we'll come back. If it fails, we'll have to start over, but I have a feeling it's going to work just fine. But we'll come back when it changes, and I'll take you on to the next part. So here we are. It took about 25 minutes, maybe 30, and we are successful. Good news indeed. So it's very important. Take a screenshot. Make sure you write down, make a mental note of this IP address so you know how to get to your vCenter page. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And I'm going to see if it'll actually let me get in. Let me drag that over here so y'all can see this. Get rid of some of this fluff on my screen. Come back here. We're going to go ahead and close this. So let's launch it and see if it'll actually let me log in. So it's a long one. It's administrator at vsphere.local, and we need to enter our super secret password and click on login. Oh, of course it's a little sluggish because it's just now coming up. Here we go, blah blah blah, CPU exhaustion, VMware vAPI endpoint service health alarm. So, but it is up and running. There's our VMware vSphere client. So I'm going to let things settle out, and I'm actually going to go ahead and log out, and I'm going to close this window once it logs out. Come back to VMware, take a look at our system so you can see how much memory we've got used, how much CPU. So I'm going to allow this VMware vCenter server to go ahead and kind of stabilize, and we may even actually shut it down and restart it, the whole thing, and then come back, and once it's stabilized, I'll take you in and we'll go and look into vSphere and see how it's operating. All right, so I've gone to lunch and I've come back and I've given it some time to stabilize. So now we're going to go ahead and log in to the vSphere client, I hope. And so we'll use the administrator account that we created at vsphere.local. Enter our super secret password. And click in login. Now the first thing we're going to need to do is add a host. So I'm going to come over here to hosts and clusters. So we'll see the vSphere client, we'll see the vSphere server here is 5.15. But what I want to do is I want to create a new data center. That's the first thing you need to do. And then once we create the data center, we can put servers into the data center. So I'm going to do a new data center. We'll just call it data center. That'll be fine. You can call it anything you want. And then we'll go over to data center. If we right click on it, now we can add a host. So what I need to do here is put in the IP address of the ESXI server that I want to add. And so we're going to use 5.8. And we're going to enter the username of root and our super secret password. And this is not the vSphere password, but it's the password that you assigned to the ESXI host. So keep that in mind. Click on next. We will accept the certificate. We will see that it is a PowerEdge R620 VMware ESXi 7. It's got some virtual machines on it. Click on next. Right now we're just going to use an evaluation license and lockdown mode. So when enabled, lockdown mode prevents users from logging directly into this host. I'm not going to enable that. It depends on your situation when you're in a production environment as to whether you want to lock this down or not. A lot of people use strict if they have a lot of host servers. Next, VM location is data center. Next, ready to complete, and then finish, and then it should add our host here. Okay, so now if we expand that view, we should now see the host on 5.8, and you can see it shows it's VMware PowerEdge R620, Intel Xeon CPU, E5 2620s at 2 gigahertz, 24 logical processors, 4 NICs, 4 virtual machines, state connected, etc., etc. And if I were to expand a little bit further, you'll see all the virtual machines under here. Now, I could use, I'm going to go ahead and dismiss this message up here. Now, I could go ahead and I could update VMware ESXi from here. But I'm going to be honest with you, I have never done it before. It seems like a really convoluted process to do it. So I'm referencing the article over on Tinker Try IT at Home, and I'm going to link this down in the information or the about section. So look for it. And I got it wrong. The first thing you need to do is to update your Vcenter server appliance if there are any updates out there. Now, the other thing I want to do is do a backup of my hypervisor. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to back up the Vcenter server appliance. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come back once that's done, do a backup, and then we'll run through a command line procedure to update ESXi. And that is the management interface for Vcenter. There we go. So now I've done this before, and I'm doing all this off the top of my head from memory now. But normally what you would do is come in here and do a backup first. So I'm going to see if I can do this. I'm going to do //192.168.5.3 / now I need to find out where my backups are. I think it's on Rivendell is where I'm putting these backups. Bear with me. Public, I don't think it's public. I thought it was under exports is where I was putting it. Yeah, exports and then Vcenter. So there's my shared that I've created on my Synology NAS. So I'm going to come back here and put it under exports. And I'm going to use my login name for my Synology NAS. Let's see, I'm not going to use an encryption password. And I'll do this, I'll give it a name prior to, let's see, pre U1. That's what we'll call it. Because the update is U1, is my understanding. Now let's see if it'll work. And the total size is going to be 124 meg. Okay, so it's doing a check, and it's going to back it up to 5.15 M70100. Let's see, 5.15 70100. Yeah, there was one on the 24th, so it should create a new folder here shortly. So I'm assuming it's running. It hasn't given me any errors yet, but it's doing a database health checkup, and it may take 3 to 10 minutes based on database size. So I'm not going to make you sit here and wait for that. We'll come back when something changes. So it is backing up, and now it's performing the post backup, and you see it was successful. And if we come out here to our Synology NAS, you'll see here's the backup right here. Nice and tidy and neat. Man, you gotta love Synology NAS. It just works. Of course, I could back this up to a Windows server as well, but I like the fact that it just kind of, integrates with the Synology. So we have our backup done now. All right, so timeout, everybody. This video is getting a little bit long. What I've decided to do now is break up this video into 2 parts. So this one is how to install Vcenter. The next video, which I'll be releasing in a day or two, will be about how to update your Vcenter server and your ESXI. So you got that to look forward to. But for now, we're going to end this video here. So there you go, people of the internet. We hope you found the video entertaining and informative as always. I honestly hope you got something out of this video. Maybe it'll help you with your VMware Lab install. Leave your comments down in the comments section, please. Give us a thumbs up down below if you liked the video. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that notification bell. We also mirror our content over on Library and Odyssey and BitChute, so check us out over there as well. Donate if you're so inclined. We take PayPal, we take Patreon, and we use the YouTube join function if you're so inclined. So thanks again for coming to see us, and please don't forget, we'll see you on the other side.